Welcome everyone to the Two-Sided Truth DebateCast, where we debate it, defend it, and then you decide. A debate cast where the facts are presented and you decide the winner. I am your moderator and host, Lisa Tracy. I'd like to give a shout out to our truthers who are subscribed to the Two-Sided Truth debate platform. Our sponsors for this evening's debate cast is The Flip Side with Lisa Tracy and Shy High Apparel. I'm so excited that you decided to join us this evening. Tonight, we have two debaters with opposing views of past debates on the Two-Sided Truth debate cast this evening. Our reigning champion, Jose Rodriguez, and Donald Conley, who is a previous debater on our show. Debating on the topic socialism versus capitalism. Which system actually works? So who's going to win? We have a new prediction feature where you can predict tonight's winner of the debate before the first topic starts. If you're subscribed and you choose correctly, you can win 50 engagement points where you're one step closer to getting a badge or a discount off of the Flip Side merch store at theflipsidewithlisatracy.com. Results will show up at the end of the debate. So here are the rules of engagement. Our debaters have 5 rounds to debate. The first 4 rounds are 8 minutes long, which includes debaters laying out their arguments and presenting their facts. Each debater will both have a chance to respond before moving on to the next round. The last round is our sparring round, which is our debate or die round, where our debaters will get a chance to ask each other questions and respond. We've made the last round triple points just in case there is a tie. In the case that there is a tie at the end of our last round, our AI agent, Arden, will determine the winner. You, as the viewer, will vote. You will have a chance to vote on each round. We also encourage you to make comments in the chat, but we ask that you are respectful with your comments. Our debaters have worked hard to present their topics and to debate. This message is both to our debaters and our viewers. It's okay to be emotional and passionate, but we want to be respectful. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. However, you can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. So at the end of this debate, we will have a winner because you would have voted. So let's begin. All right, we are here with our debaters. So let's welcome Jose Rodriguez again, and also Donald Conley. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. So Jose, I would love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell our debaters a little bit about yourself and what position you are on this evening.
I'm Jose Rodriguez, and I've decided to take on the challenge of arguing in the affirmative for socialism or social democracies being a better form than capitalism.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Donald, tell us about yourself. Thank you for joining us again. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what side you're on as well. Oh, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Oops. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Just a little about me. I am a IT professional. I have experience in being a substitute teacher for Chicago Public Schools. Right now, I'm a married father of one. And my point of view is that capitalism is better than communism because it works. It works better.
So you're calling socialism communism tonight?
I'm sorry, socialism. It's okay. Better than well, actually the two sides of the same coin. But yeah, I would say that capitalism works and socialism, it doesn't.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Donald. I appreciate both of you all's introductions. Awesome. So I want to remind our viewing audience, remember your job is to go to the twosidedtruth.com to vote. You are only allowed to vote once without being subscribed or signed in. Subscriptions are free. So subscribe to this twosidedtruth.com to vote. Also, if you are subscribed to the Two-Sided Truth, check out our leadership board. The more you interact, vote, and comment, the more points you earn to receive badges and discounts to our merch store. If you're looking to support us, buy some merch. Check out our merch store at the flipsidewithlisa.tracy.com. You are also able to see the different shirts under your stream on the twosidedtruth.com. Also, don't forget we have our AI agent Ardent listening, as he always is. And remember, he does not take sides. He doesn't have feelings, so he cannot be charmed. He will be fact-checking, and at the end of the debate, Ardent gives his own verdict on who he believes is the winner. Viewers will still vote in each round, and the winner of the debate will be based on the viewers who voted. So if you're watching on the debate platform, keep an eye out for Ardent because it will be interesting. Before we get started, we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to head right into round one. So we should be back in like 35, 45 seconds. The Two-Sided Truth debate platforms let you vote for the best debater. Just click the Live Now, Watch Live Debate tab to watch an ongoing debate and explore the Active Voting Guide and Comments tab. On the Active Topic page, you can see the debaters and their current topics. Click a debater's name to cast your vote, and you can also change it anytime. Once a topic ends, the next one opens for voting. You can also vote multiple times. For extra help, check the Voting Guide tab and join the conversation by leaving comments and interacting with other viewers.
Cantik berkelas, bukan sekadar cantik ini berkelas. Cantik berkelas, lihat jelas dari cara jalan sampai gestur halus. Cantik berkelas, level beda, bukan yang bebas. Berkelas, feel the class, elegan vibe, yeah I'm built to last. No cheap talk, semua refined. Cara pikirku different kind. High taste, no compromise.
All right, this is our fire starter round. And what's the tagline? Light the match and state your case. So, just a little history. For over a century, the battle between socialism and capitalism has shaped governments, economies, revolutions, and everyday life across the globe. One system argues that competition, private ownership, and private markets create innovation, wealth, and opportunity. The others argue that society works best when resources are shared more equally and government plays a stronger role in protecting the people. Supporters of capitalism point to booming economies, technical advancements, and personal freedom. Supporters of socialism point to healthcare access, social safety nets, and reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. But critics on both sides argue the opposite systems creates greed, inequality, corruption, dependency, or even oppression. Tonight's debate is not about theory alone, it's about results. Which system actually works in the real world? Which system creates stronger economies, fairer societies, and better lives for everyday people? And in today's world of inflation, rising inequality, and political division, which path should society trust moving forward? The debate over socialism and capitalism often sounds ideological, but tonight we begin with reality. Around the world, countries have experimented with both systems in different forms. Some nations embrace free markets and private enterprise. Others expand government control and social ownership. Both sides claim history proves their point. Capitalism argue the world's strongest economies are market-driven, while socialists argue countries with stronger social programs consistently rank higher in quality of life. So when we look at actual results, not promises, which system truly delivers? All right. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open for round one. Real world results and historical evidence. Which system has actually worked in practice? Jose, you are up and you have 2 minutes.
The answer is there is no evidence of pure capitalism or pure socialism having worked in history because neither has been tried, not in its purest sense. I've always been told that the best example for capitalism having worked is the United States. But if that's the case, then how do we explain the big government socialist style programs that built this country? The head right system from 1618 to the 1700s gave individuals 50 free acres of land. The military bounty land warrants of 1775 to 1855 gave 160 free acres of land to vets. The Homestead Act of 1862 gave 160 free acres and equipment for individuals to farm the land. The donation land claim of 1850 gave 320 free acres in the Pacific Northwest for individuals and 640 to couples. The Moral Land Grant gave thousands of free acres to states to build schools and university. What capitalism in our history has brought us are robber barons like J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller. They, along with speculation buying, overproduction, growing unequal distribution of wealth, and all that resulted in the stock market and the crash and the Great Depression. What saved us from the Great Depression and the total collapse is FDR's New Deal. In other words, more socialism, or more accurately, social democracy. That came with the Emergency Banking Act, strong regulations, the creation of the FDIC, the creation of Work Progress Administration, civilian corps, that put millions of Americans to work. On the other side, the top 10 nations that have the strongest social policies and the best quality of life index are nations with strong socialist style policies.
All right. Thank you so much, Jose. All right. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open for this topic. All right, Donald, you have 2 minutes. Real world results and historical evidence. Which system has actually worked in practice? 2 minutes. If you're speaking, you're probably on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting to hit the unmute the button. Unmute the mic. Well, I would say just look around. I mean, you don't have to go back in history. Just look around. America. How are we doing as compared to, Venezuela, who was once a booming democracy and booming capitalism. And when they adopted socialist practices, they went straight into the toilet. The more socialist they got, the worse it got for the people. They went from being healthy to eating out of garbage cans, to eating their own pets, to going to zoos and eating the animals there. I mean, that's real world results. I mean, you can't really go. I mean, you have to think of it from a practical point of view. United States capitalism has worked. It is shown to have worked. There's always going to be an inequality. As long as there's human beings, there's always going to be rich and poor. That's just a fact of life, no matter what country you go into. But it seems like in socialist countries, you got a lot of poor, and they don't generally lift themselves out of poverty. But American capitalism, people are becoming millionaires every single day. And there's nothing wrong with being a millionaire. There's nothing wrong with being rich. Nothing wrong with being middle income. But there's something really wrong when the government and the system that you live under keeps you poor and keeps you from getting rich. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with being rich. If there was something wrong with being rich, then a lot of poor people wouldn't play the lottery. So obviously, I look at it from an extremely practical point of view.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, well, the polls are open. The polls are open. You can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, but you can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. And you can stream live here. You can leave comments here. You can do everything that you're doing on all of those social media uh, platforms here, but you can only cast your vote here. All right, Jose, would you like to counter?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to start with the straw man that Donald built. Pro-capitalists love to talk about Cuba, Venezuela, Argentina, but they always avoid talking about the successful Nordic nations, the ones that top the list of the happiness index, the ones that the people in those nations, year after years, continue to choose their socialist style policies. And the reason that they do so is because they are better off. They're not poor. Great many of them are wealthy because socialism does not oppose wealth, contrary to the propaganda that people have been fed. What they fail to mention is that a lot of the countries that Donald liked to mention, like Cuba, Venezuela, Argentina, those failures have happened because of corruption. And a lot of that corruption has been fed by our very own government, by the use of embargoes, the CIA fueled uprisings, assassination attempts, propaganda campaigns, and even direct military intervention. Capitalism has also produced failures like recessions and financial crisis, the Great Depression, 2008, the Great Recession. All of that was a result of capitalism. And it's capitalism wanting a lack of regulation, a lack of oversight, and that's all done in the name of increasing profits. And none of it is done in the name of building a better life for the broader public. It's all building a better life for the shareholders and the CEOs.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open. You can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. Come on over and cast your vote. Donald, would you like to counter?
Oh, yes, definitely.
2
Those
minutes.
Nordic countries. I do have my mic on. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Those Nordic countries that you mentioned, unfortunately, they do not consider themselves socialist countries. That's number one. Number two, the interesting thing about those countries is that they have they have actually gotten away from socialism. They would even tell you that. One of the things that I found out was that one of the leaders, I forgot her name, but she actually got upset that people called their country socialist. Got upset. It's like, no, we're not socialist. We are entering, they're getting more capitalistic. And so there's something wrong when the country that you name as an example actually says, no, we're not socialist. I'm glad they're not. The more capitalist they get, the more prosperous their people will get. And countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, they are mischaracterized as socialists. And to call the programs that we started back in the farm programs, giving away land, to call those things socialist, no. That's socialism is defined, has a certain definition, and to just call anything, any program that you give, where you give things to people, to call it socialist, is to just paint everything socialist. I gave my son an allowance. I just gave him something just for being my son. Is that a socialist move? I don't think so. That's my counter. Oh, and if you Google, do Nordic countries consider themselves socialist? It says no, they don't.
All right, you all. The polls are open. The polls are open for this subtopic. We have some comments in the comment section. All right, let's see. Jeffrey Roth says, Jose, the socialist policy alluded to still had no balance. African Americans were excluded from the land allocation, not successful for everyone. And then Cesar says, speaking from an AA perspective, we have historically been in favor of socialist programs, i.e. Panther Party, DIA programs, food programs, etc. Would any of you all like to comment on, take those, any of the comments and comment on it for 30 seconds?
Yes. The commenter was correct in that African Americans were excluded from all of those that I listed. That has nothing to do with whether they are or are not social democracy policies. Donald said that those Nordic countries aren't socialist. Well, true, because there has never in history been a socialist country or a pure capitalist country. It's never happened, including this country. They're social democracies, and those people that were discluded were discluded because of racism and capitalism, not because of anything having to do with social democracies.
Okay, thank you so much. Donald, would you like to comment?
I think you're kind of moving the goalpost here. Nobody said anything about a pure democracy, a pure socialist or a pure capitalist society. That's moving the goalposts. As far as social democracy, that speaks of a balance between capitalism and I guess socialism, but social welfare programs are not socialism. You have to find out what socialism is. When you find out what socialism is, then you realize that social welfare programs are not socialism. They're socialism, and as far as a market economy, as far as how you means of production and land ownership, then there are social welfare programs which don't have anything to do with socialism.
Okay.
Just because they both have the name, just because they have the social in them, I had social studies. Does that mean that I'm a socialist now?
Okay. Thank you so much for that. All right, you all, the polls are open. The polls are open for just a few more minutes for the round one. All right, this question is for Jose. If socialism works, why have many socialist economies struggled or collapsed historically? 30 seconds.
I've addressed that already. Because of corruption, and there's corruption in any form of any economy or any form of government, including ours. We all complain about that. And the other thing is we keep messing with other people's business. We've overthrown countries' elected officials just because they've tried social democracy style policies, including Iran now.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Donald, 30 seconds. If capitalism works so well, why do so many capitalist nations still struggle with poverty and homelessness?
Because as long as there are people, there's going to be some form of inequality. There's some people who are going to make great decisions and still prosper, and there's some people who are going to make bad decisions and suffer. But the problem with socialism is you can make good decisions, but you will never get lifted out of poverty. But in capitalism, if you make good decisions, if you wait till you're married to have children, if you get an education, if you stay out of the criminal justice system, you can pretty much evolve to the middle income or even get rich. But socialism doesn't afford you that opportunity. Capitalism does.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Jose, and I think you answered this question, but maybe you can answer it a little bit further. Can you name a large-scale socialist economy that has clearly outperformed capitalist nations long term? 30 seconds.
If we're talking pure socialism, no. Just like I can't name a pure capitalist country. They don't exist in it and never have existed in our history. So the closest thing would be the social democracies of those Nordic nations. And that's why they consistently, year over year, rank higher on the happiness report and the quality of life index. Those are the Netherlands, Denmark, Luxembourg, Oman, Switzerland, Finland, Austria, Germany, which I lived in for 2 years, Iceland, Norway.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you all. Thank you for that. Donald,
Hmm.
is economic growth enough to call a system successful if millions still struggle to survive? 30 seconds.
Well, yes, because like I said, as long as we are people and we are humans, there are going to be some people who make bad decisions, who make criminal decisions, and so they're going to suffer for it. They're going to be people who work hard and make good decisions, and so they're going to prosper. And that happens it happens especially in capitalist situations, but in socialist situations, everybody suffers. It may be a few at the top don't, but there's no middle income. You're either rich, very rich, or you're very, very poor. There's no middle ground. In America, there's a middle ground. That's the biggest difference between capitalism and socialism. One of them.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you all, the polls are open. The polls are open on the two-sidedtruth.com. You can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. All right, we are moving to the next round. And the next round is, of course, trial by fire. Face the heat and defend your position. Innovation drives modern society. From smartphones to medicine to artificial intelligence, economic systems influence who creates, who profits, and who benefits. Capitalists argue competition and profit incentives push people to innovate faster and work harder. Socialists argue innovation should serve society, not just corporations and billionaires. Tonight's question is simple. Which system actually creates stronger economies and more meaningful progress? All right, Donald, you are
Hmm.
up. Round two,
Hmm.
economic efficiency and innovation. Which system produces more growth, innovation, and economic success? 2 minutes.
Capitalism. Capitalism. How much innovation have you seen coming out of Cuba or Venezuela? China, they get their innovation from us. They don't come up with new stuff. They just steal our stuff. It's so hard for an American businessman to make money in China because they constantly have to fight the counterfeiters and the fakers who steal their ideas and steal their products. America is where economic innovation and efficiency occurs. It's forced in China, and it's forced in other countries that consider themselves socialist. This pure socialist, pure capitalist, I don't know where that comes from. I'm dealing with what's happening now. You want to call America not pure capitalist? That's fine. You want to call China or Venezuela or Cuba not pure socialist? Cool. But I deal in realities. I'm not going to sit here and deal with all these vague generalities. Um, which system produces? I mean, America is a technological leader. Japan, a technological leader. Very, very few innovations come out of China, Venezuela, Cuba, the Soviet Union, East Asia. Very few. Only capitalist countries produce great economic efficiency and innovation. And as far as America going over and you're saying they harm these other countries, and that's why their socialist policies don't grow. Well, that's just another big bad wolf. America's mean, America's big, America holding us down, big bad Uncle Sam. I mean, I'm sorry, that gets kind of tired. People have to take responsibility for their own actions. If they can't keep an outside entity from affecting them in that kind of way, then all you're doing is calling them weak. If they're that weak, then they probably should get run over.
Okay. Thank you so much, Donald. The polls are open for this subtopic, you all. The polls are open. You can cast your vote on the two-sided truth. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, but you can only cast your vote on the two-sided truth. Come over and subscribe to us. It is free 99. We just send you out one text or email a week, just notifying you of the upcoming debate that's going to be happening on Tuesday. Come on over to subscribe. All right, Jose, economic efficiencies and innovation. Which system produces more growth, innovation and economic success? 2 minutes.
You know, I keep saying social democracy versus socialism or vote versus pure socialism or pure capitalism, again, because neither has ever existed in the world's history, including the United States. I fear that Donald may not know what socialism actually is, because if he's talking about nations that their leaders have corrupted their systems that he calls socialist nations, then by definition they can't be socialist nations, because socialism doesn't allow for kind of setup. The people control, not a government controls. Donald mentioned Cuba. Well, Cuba has better medical care outcomes than we do, and they've had a 50-year embargo, even longer, 70 years embargo by us. He mentioned China. China has the second strongest economy on the planet, has for decades, and it's a close second to us. He mentioned Japan. Japan is another social democracy. You're not talking about nations that are pure capitalism. None of us are, because no nations are pure capitalists. Innovation should benefit society, not just shareholders. People love to call this a socialist Marxist idea, but it didn't initiate with Karl Marx. Marx actually learned this from Adam Smith. And I'm sure Donald doesn't know who Adam Smith is, but he is the father of capitalism. He's the author of The Wealth of Nations. He is the one that said that innovation and wealth distribution should benefit society and not just the owner class.
Okay, thank you so much. Jose.
Yes.
You are freezing for some reason. Do you want to go back out and come back in?
Okay, yeah, that has been happening for a while. Let me give that a shot.
Okay, awesome. And then when you're out, we'll allow Donald to come on and counter. All right, Donald, would you like to counter?
Yes.
2 minutes.
Again, I deal with realities. I'm dealing with what's happening now. Pure communism, pure socialism, pure capitalism, that's all fine and dandy. But I mean, in a social democracy, those people already told you that they're not socialists, and you know, in the Nordic countries. And if you ask them if they're social democracies, they probably would say no, they're not social democracies. So neither a pure capitalist or pure socialist country existing, who cares? I'm talking about what's happening now in America. We do operate as a capitalist society. And as far as Cuba offering a better medical care, okay, that's arguable, but I gotta let you know, I would rather be in an American hospital than a Cuban hospital. America leads in economic and innovation, not Cuba. People don't go to Cuba to get their operations unless they want to get it cheap. But people from socialist countries come to America. People from Canada come to America. People from China come to America. People from England, another socialistic country, come to America. They come to America to get their medical care. They don't go to Cuba or Venezuela or China or Russia. They don't go to those places. And as far as China's economy, okay, they do have a strong economy. Can't fault them for that, but a lot of what they get, they steal from us.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you
and
so
he
much.
was talking about the people, the definition of socialism is, oof, I have to find that. But I'm done right now.
Thank you so much. All right.
Hmm.
The polls are still open, you all, for this round. The polls are still open. All right, Jose, would you like to counter?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, I'm going to give, since Donald keeps trying to pivot and say that he's living in the now, even though all of what I've mentioned is in the now. It's our entire history of this nation, including right now, like I already mentioned, the Great Recession of 2008. That's well within our lifetime. But he mentioned that everybody comes to America for healthcare. No, I mentioned earlier that I lived in Germany. My daughter gave birth to her daughter in Germany without any uh, any counterindications, any difficulties. She spent 5 days in the hospital, not because there was any problems, but because that's how they do it. She had a lactation consultant. She had someone that came in and fed the baby for her. They gave her diapers, clothing. They fed her and the father. Again, 5 days. Here in America, you're in the hospital for 2 days. They don't provide any of that service to you. And it cost on the low end $14,000. In Germany, where we weren't citizens, so we didn't have their same free health care, it cost $3,000. Could you imagine a 5-day stay in a hospital costing only $3,000 here in America? It doesn't happen. Why? Because we are profit driven here and they are people and care driven in those social democracies. Here we worry about the bottom line. So, yeah, if we only want to talk about the bottom line, hip, hip, hooray, America. That's what we care about, the bottom line. Not about society, not about its people.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Jose. All right. I got some comments to read. Let's go to the comment section. All right. Jacoby says, practicing socialist here. The socialist commentator is arguing for social democracy, which is a capitalist system that restricts food markers, which is exclusively not socialist. 3, add Venezuela's best ever economy was under socialism and easy to find the stats.
100% right.
Okay. Jacoby says Donald is correct to point this out. Don't strawman your own socialist argument. USSR holds great examples for successful socialism, as does China, which has far better poverty rates than we do, and it's not even close. Caesar says economists have confirmed we are moving towards extreme wealth or poverty, K-style economy under capitalism. All right, I got some questions for you all. Okay. Donald,
Hmm. Yes.
30 seconds. Will major innovation exist without the possibility of profit and wealth?
No, no, because people are driven by selfishness. They want to make life better for themselves and better for others, secondarily. But if making life better for others makes life better for me, then yeah, it's driven by profit. Um, Necessity is the mother of invention. People do things to help themselves and to help others. So yeah, I mean, name a place where that doesn't exist.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Jose, how do you stop socialist economies from becoming bloated and bureaucratic?
I don't know that that's a necessary outcome. I think I'm frozen again. I don't know if you can hear me,
We
but
can hear you, but
okay.
you are
I don't
frozen.
know if that is a necessary outcome from socialism because that's not what these people keep talking about socialism and then talk about the bloat at the top. There is no top in socialism because in socialism, it is the masses that control everything. It is we, the people, that control everything.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Where are my notes? Okay. Donald. Has
Yes.
capitalism become less about competition and more about monopolies controlling markets? 30 seconds.
I think we have less monopolies now than we've had in history. I think the number of monopolies has gone down, not up. Um, has capitalism produced more competition? Yes, and that's a good thing. It's good that we have competition, that people are in competition with each other to build bigger buildings, to have more jobs, to pay people more, to pay themselves more, to make America a more efficient and more technologically advanced society. Yes, competition is good.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Jose, if socialism is more efficient, why do many state-run systems struggle with shortages and delays?
I don't know where that's not true, whether in capitalism or socialism. Everything is driven, both in capitalism and in socialism, by market conditions. So socialism is a slave to market conditions, just like capitalism is. So either way, you just pick your poison.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, you all, we are moving on. We are moving on. I do want to say the next round, of course, is crossfire pressure point. This is where arguments get tested and crack under pressure. One of our biggest criticisms of capitalism is inequality. Critics argue wealth naturally rises to the top while working class people struggle to keep up. Supporters of capitalism respond that unequal outcomes are a natural result of freedom, effort, and risk taking. Socialism promises a more balanced society, but opponents argue forced redistribution punishes success and limits opportunity. So tonight we ask, is fairness about equal opportunity, equal outcomes, or something else entirely? All right, Jose, you are up. Wealth distribution and inequality. Which system creates a fairer society? 2 minutes.
Well, definitionally, it would have to be socialism, because definitionally, capitalism seeks to just maximize profits. Everything else falls behind maximizing profits. So if that means layoffs, then so be it. If that means cutting worker pay, then so be it. If that means cutting worker hours and benefits, then so be it. At the end of the day, it's all about profits. Capitalism naturally concentrates wealth to the top. In fact, that very lopsided concentration of wealth is the goal of capitalism. Today's capitalism bastardized Adam Smith's idea that the individuals pursuing their own personal gain will inadvertently contribute to the economic well-being of society as a whole. In capitalism, workers often don't receive the full value of their labor. Workers do all the labor. Sometimes it's just mind-numbing, repetitive actions. Other times it's labor-intensive, back-breaking, and often life-risking work. He or she gets little to no say in decision-making and makes a very small percentage of the profits. For example, a typical line worker at a Tesla plant makes $24 an hour. That's about $50,000 a year. By contrast, Elon Musk is worth more than $800 billion. It would take a typical Tesla employee 16 million years to earn that much. Are we seriously going to say and lie to ourselves and say that Elon Musk has put in 16 million years more worth of hard work than his line workers? That's ridiculous. Of course he hasn't. what's even worse is that Elon Musk, a lot of his wealth is built on socialism. It's built on government giveaways, taxpayer-funded subsidies, taxpayer-funded contracts. He and Jeff Bezos pay almost zero in taxes.
You want to finish your statement, Jose?
Yeah. So those at the top in a capitalist society, they make all the money. They are largely dependent on taxpayer funding, which is what capitalists call socialism. Not socialists, but that's what the capitalists say. So when they point to Nordic countries, the social democracies, they say that it's socialism, not the socialists.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. All right, the polls are open, you all. The polls are open for this subtopic. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, but you can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. All right, Donald, wealth distribution and inequality. Which system creates a fairer society? 2 minutes.
Capitalism, of course. Because when you look at a capitalistic society, you have poor, middle income, and wealthy. And in socialist countries, they have one or two. You either very rich or you're extremely poor. There is no middle class. That's what separates American capitalism from these socialist countries. The rich have a place to go. If they lose their riches, they can go to the middle income, and the people that are poor can rise up and become wealthy, or rise up and become middle income. As far as wealth distribution and inequality, which system? I mean, in socialist countries, people are oppressed. I mean, extremely oppressed. I mean, my parents grew up on a farm. And they were extremely poor, but they went on to become middle income, and some of their neighbors went on to become upper middle income or lower upper income. There's more opportunity to become either wealthy or middle income in capitalist countries, and that's fair. And the thing is, how much of a rich guy's money am I entitled to? How much of it? Elon Musk is a billionaire. Are you saying that Donald Conley should go walk over to Elon Musk and say, "Hey, Elon, give me some of your money because you got too much"? Well, how much is too much? If he's not giving enough of his money away, what are you going to do? Shoot him and take it? Because that's what they do in socialist/communist countries. They kill rich people, and people in America want to be rich. Come on, man.
Thank you so much.
Show me a fair socialist country. I'd love to see it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. The polls are open, you all, for this subtopic. The polls are open for this subtopic. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. All right. Jose, would you like to counter?
Yes. Donald keeps arguing a non sequitur. He's arguing against something that doesn't exist. Socialism doesn't have a rich and poor. He keeps saying that socialism only offers you to be rich or to be poor. That's not socialism. That might be his idea of what socialism is. That might be what the propaganda told him that socialism is, but that's not what socialism is. All that socialism is that the people control the means of production, factories, the farms, the resources, all of that. That's all that socialism is. It has nothing to do with the rich or the poor. As a matter of fact, it strives to not have a rich or a poor. It strives to have where everyone has at least a basic, respectful lifestyle. That's it. It's capitalism that has grown the wealth inequality, especially in this country, since this is the example of capitalism that we're using. This country, the wealth gap is on steroids now. He asked whether he can go up to Elon and ask for some money. Well, Elon has no problem taking your money and my money because a large amount of his wealth comes from taxpayer-funded subsidies. Who's the taxpayer? Us. Elon already has our money. I have no problem getting some of my money back. You may not want to. You may want to continue to give the uber wealthy all the money, all the subsidies, all the breaks, all the tax loopholes, all the influence that comes with being a multi-billionaire, where we have none, where they can buy politicians and we can't. Feel free. If that's what you want, if that's what capitalism offers, so be it.
All right. The polls are still open, you all. The polls are open. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. All right, Donald, would you like to counter?
Yes. All of us get tax breaks. Everybody gets tax breaks. A millionaire is going to get millions of dollars in tax breaks, and I'm going to get hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars in tax breaks. Does that mean that because he's got millions in tax breaks that I'm supposed to take some of his millions? Look, it's always going to be rich and poor people. Always. That's one of the things that the Lord said. He said that you will always have the poor among you. So now, since I'm getting tax breaks and Elon is getting tax breaks, then does that mean somebody poorer than Donald should get some of his money? Because see, when other people look at me, they can look at me as being rich. You have a house, you got a couple of cars. I want some of your money. No, all of us get tax breaks. And as far as Elon didn't get all of his money from government programs. He gets it from profits, from his stock, from his companies. You act like Elon is sitting there and the government is shoveling money at him. Do they give him money? Of course they do. If I wanted to build something or start a business, the government will give me money. Government always gives us money for something like that. Does that make them socialists? No. Socialism is a means of production where the government controls the means of production, and you don't have a lot of private and he's saying that socialist countries don't have. Socialist countries do have rich and poor. They do. What do you think? Everybody in a socialist country is poor? No, they're not. He says that it's not fair for Elon. Elon has taken all the risk. Elon has invested all the money. Why should I get more than what he gives to me? I used to own a moving company, and I invested $16,000 into that moving company. As somebody worked for me, they wanted to get half of what we made. I'm like, dude, you're not going to get half. You're going to get what I give you. Now, if you come up with another $8,000 to $10,000, yeah, then we can talk about half. But if you ain't put up none of the money and you ain't taking none of the risk, you only get a certain amount of the profits, which is this, which is enough for you to live on and enough for me to live on.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. We have a few comments from the chat. Chad says, and therein lies the problem, being more concerned with others and not what I bring to the market and what others are willing to pay for the value. Venezuelans left the country to come here if they can afford to. Milk Bong says, LOL, Venezuela was an awful life before socialism. What is he talking about? All right. Let me go back to my other comments. Jacoby says monopolies are quantifiable according to definitions. There are tenfold more now than before. Why does Donald think there are less monopolies now? And Caesar says China owns our debt. That's not IP theft. That's not IP theft. All right. Would anyone like to respond to any of these questions or comments?
I think the commenters are absolutely right. We do have more monopolies. If you want to get some groceries, you can go to Walmart. If you need to pick up a prescription, you can go to Walmart. If you want to buy some toys, you can go to Walmart. If you need to get your oil change and your tires rotated, you can go to Walmart. Or you can go to Sam's Club, also owned by Walmart. The Waltons of the Walmart family, the founders, those original 6 members, I think there's really 3 now. They pay a lower tax rate, just like Elon Musk, just like Jeff Bezos. Yeah, we all pay taxes. Donald's right. Yeah, we all get some form of tax break, but they pay a lower effective tax rate than any of us do. How does that make sense to anyone? In some cases, they pay 0. In who is it? Disney, Amazon, Tesla. I believe last year they paid 0 in taxes last year. I didn't pay 0 in taxes last year. I'm sure Donald didn't pay 0 in taxes last year. That's what capitalism gives us, a greater divide between the haves and the have-nots. It's not a matter of wanting to take other people's money. It's not a matter of focusing on other people. It's a matter of our work has value. Elon Musk didn't put together not one single car. He didn't turn one single bolt, one screw. He didn't mine the cobalt that goes into smart cars. So the workers did that. The workers helped make him wealthy. Their tax dollars, our tax dollars, helped make him wealthy. He didn't do that on his own. The only risk he took was taking some of the millions that he inherited from his father, bought someone else's electric car company, and then built it from there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jose. Donald, would you like to respond?
Yeah. Why should I be watching Elon Musk pockets? I'm over here grinding for myself. I'm not jealous of Elon. I don't even want look, if I work for Elon, I'd want his money, but I don't want his money. Why should that's the problem. We watching other people's pockets. Watch your own pockets. Grind out there for yourself. If he can start a business, so can you. Yeah, he might have taken millions of dollars and quadrupled his investment. Well, then why don't you take your few $1,000s and invest in yourself, invest in some stock? But why be mad at him? Do you know there are a good number of poor people who don't pay taxes? Why should I be mad at him? If he knows how to manipulate the tax system to the point where he don't owe any taxes, good for him. Here's the thing. A lot of times I get a tax refund. So, my tax rate is either very low or I don't pay any taxes or I get a good chunk of my money back. Who cares? Who cares if he gets a big tax break? Work for yourself. Stop watching him.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. I think we've just discovered kind of that the issue right now may be the clock. So what we're going to have to do for the next 2 rounds is we're not going to put the clock up because I think that may be causing the issue of the freeze of Jose freezing. So we're going to have to start a timer on our own.
I think he's freezing because he's scared.
You might have to give Donald some extra points for that one because that was a good one.
That was good. We're going to go ahead and just manually start a timer, and you're just going to have to listen to my voice when I stop you. I'll give you a 30-second countdown when it's 30 seconds. And then from there, we'll go from there. All right. We are moving on to our round 4, and that is the Inferno. The final blaze. The flames are high, either rise or get burned. At the center of this debate is power. Who should have more control over society? Individuals, corporations, or government? Capitalists argue too much government involvement limits freedom, slows progress, and creates dependency. Socialists argue government intervention is necessary to protect citizens from exploitation and economic instability. The challenge is finding the balance between freedom and protection. So tonight's question becomes, does government involvement strengthen society or weaken it? Donald, you are up. Government control versus individual freedom. Does government involvement help or hurt society? 2 minutes.
Okay, I think the very U.S. Constitution that we are all under, I think that's a very good document, because number one, it recognizes the individual. It recognizes also it recognizes the role of government, and it tells us that we get our rights not from our government but from God. Because if a government can give you your rights, then a government can take them away. Um, does government involvement can help and harm a society? I think during our growing years as a country, government harmed a lot of society. But I also think that right now, in the last few years, I think the government has helped us, but I also think that that in some cases it has harmed us. Um, I believe that government has a place in protecting us. Like I say, the Constitution lays that out for us. You know, we the people. In order to form a more perfect union, then it says we get our rights from God. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Yeah, we get our rights from God, not from government. And so I believe government can hurt. I believe you can have too much government. And also that you can have not enough. I think that our
30
government
seconds,
kind of
Donald.
down.
30 seconds.
I believe our government strikes a balance. I think sometimes it's a little too much and sometimes it's not enough. But I believe that our government, as outlined by the Constitution, is the best in the world. Better than any Nordic country, better than any socialist country or any social democracy that you want to talk about. America is the best country in the world, period.
All right. Time's up. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you all. The polls are open for this topic. The polls are open. You can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. All right, Jose, round 4, government control versus individual freedom. Does government involvement help or hurt society? 2 minutes.
I think big picture, the government has more often than not helped than hurt. Donald pretty much walked the balance of that the government can hurt from time to time. Of course it can. Any organization, any large group, any system, even any individual can hurt and help from time to time. He pointed to the Constitution, saying that we derive our rights from our creator and not from the government. But he seemed to forget that the government is nothing but us anyways. The Constitution also lays that out. Our government is of, by, and for the people. So the government is just us anyway. It doesn't make a difference that whether or not we recognize that our rights are derived from our creator, because at the end of the day, our government is still just us. So yeah, I think it protects the people. It protects us in the context of this conversation and this debate. It protects us from exploitation. Without the government controls and regulations, we would still be working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks with no overtime pay. We would have no child labor laws. We would have no workplace protections. We would have workplace tragedies like the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, the Hawk Nest tunnel disaster, the Texas City disaster, the Monongahela mining disaster, the Hamlet chicken plant fire. When a workplace disaster does take place, workers, their families, and not only have a recourse because of the government, but we have safeguards that are already in place because of the government. So for him to say that we are the greatest nations, I love our country. But when people say that, I always wonder, what metrics are we basing that on?
Time. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm doing so many things here. I'm sorry. It was Donald. I think I think Jose, did you already counter? No, 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 no.
Yeah, that
Um,
was my counter. I think Donald, this is round 4, correct?
yep. This is
Yeah,
round
so
4. So
Donald opened this.
actually,
That was my counter. It's Donald's turn now.
Donald, it's you. You got
Yeah.
2 minutes. Would you like to
To
counter?
um, no, not really. I mean, we both pretty much said the same thing. Government can hurt and harm. So, I have no real problem with what he said.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Uh, Jose, I think you have a counter, right? Or is that your counter?
I had the first counter. Donald just had his. I don't know if
Okay.
we have
All right.
another or
Nope.
the
No,
30
That's it.
no,
second thing.
good.
Okay,
Good.
awesome. All right. All right. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open for this for this round here. All right. We are going to move to the last and final round, which is our debate or die round. And with our debate or die round, this is the round where you get to say it with your full chest. No scripts, just the truth. So in our last round, this is our sparring round where Jose and Donald will have 5 minutes to interact respectfully, ask each other questions. They'll get to counter and everything. So if you haven't voted, this is your chance where you definitely want to vote. This particular round is where points are triple, so we don't have any ties. So, like I said, I'm not going to display our 5 minutes because I don't want anybody to start freezing. However, I will let you know when you have 1 minute left, and then I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. So, all right, I'm going to start our timer, and we're off to the debate or die round.
All right. Well, if we're using the economy to determine which is better, we've seen economic destruction, pensions lost in the form of the Great Depression and the Great Recession. That comes from unfettered capitalism that wants no regulations placed on it. Wealth disparity in this country that has done nothing but gotten worse as a result of capitalist ideas that things like trickle-down economics. And when it does all come crashing down, who do we turn to? Socialism. We turn to bailouts. We turn to the taxpayer to bail out the billionaires for the destruction that their greed has caused. Now, if we're using morality as our metric, then I'm hard pressed to see how it's moral for one person to have more than 16 million years worth of wealth than one of his employees. And if the Bible is where we draw our morality from, then I'd like to cite the Bible. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possession and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as they had need. Sounds like socialism, but that's Acts 2:44 and 45. Now the whole group of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions. It sounds like socialism, but everything that they owned was held in common. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as owned land and houses sold them and were bought the proceeds of what was sold and distributed to each as they had need. Also from Acts, John the Baptist said, whoever has 2 coats must share with anyone who has none, and whoever has food must do likewise. Jesus told Nicodemus, there is still one thing lacking. Sell all that you own and distribute the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. While we are taught to store up treasures on earth, or not to store up treasures on earth, but rather treasures in heaven. But according to the gospel of capitalism, the book of Elon Musk teaches that whoever dies with the most money wins. Donald, to you, please.
Okay. People are escaping socialist countries to come to the United States, not the other way around.
Yes,
That's
you're
it.
right. After we've destroyed their economies. That's something else. I know the AI will fact check.
Big bad
It's true.
big
You can Google.
mistake.
That's also true.
We just beating everybody up. No, they're leaving their countries to come here in droves. We're not leaving in droves to go to their countries. I mean, you can go ahead and talk as much as you want. I'm done.
Okay, well, Donald, you're absolutely right. In 1953, we overturned Iran's democratically elected government. They had a thriving democracy that operated under what we call capitalism, and we overturned it. Why? Because they were going to go off the petrodollar, and we didn't want it to hurt our economy. So we overthrew their government, installed the Shah, and as a result of that, we're still fighting with Iran. Right before, after we bombed them, after Trump bombed them, 8 months ago now, we then started interfering with their economy and then decided that we were going to attack them and lie to ourselves and say, well, that they were an imminent nuclear threat. Not true. We did the same thing with Venezuela before we went and kidnapped their president. We started destabilizing their currency. That happened in Cuba with the embargoes, with the assassination attempts. It happened in Argentina, the exact same thing. So you can scoff at whether or not these things happen, but they're historical truths.
Not scoffing.
It's just what happened. So yeah, after we disrupt their entire country, to see that their people want to come here or anywhere else that's better than what we've already destroyed, sure, it makes sense.
30 seconds.
Oh, in total or for me?
In total.
Oh, yeah. No. I said my piece.
Okay. You got a few more seconds, you all.
All right. Well, I guess at the end of the day, if we're talking social democracy, because there are no socialist countries, there never have been, versus our form of capitalism, well, we can see, like Donald said, we're living it now. We can see the massive wealth gap that keeps going. Productivity has increased for the last 7 years. Productivity of the workers have increased for the last 70 years. Has pay? No, not to the same rate. Has the minimum wage? No, that's been the same $7.25 since what, 2008 thereabouts, or 2010. So to me, those Nordic countries are the top 10 year after year because they're social democracies for a reason. Where do we rank? Depending on what the criteria within all that ranking is, we normally rank somewhere in the 20s and in some cases in the 50s. I think it's telling.
All right. Thank you all so much. All right. We have completed the last round. I want to thank Jose Rodriguez and Donald Conley so much for coming on this evening. You all both did fantastic. And of course, here at the Two-Sided Truth, there is always a winner. But before we announce the winner, we hope that both of you all come back regardless of who won. And the winner for this evening's debate is Jose Rodriguez. Jose, you are our winner for this evening. Thank you all so much. Congratulations. Thank you all so much, both of you all so much for debating.
Thank you again for another good debate.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all to our debaters. If you believe you can hold your own during a debate and you love presenting facts and you can civilly debate with passion, sign up to be a debater. Go to the twosidedtruth.com, scroll down a little, and click the Become a Debater button. If you'd like to suggest a topic, go to the twosidedtruth.com and click the Suggest a Topic button to type in your topic. Thank you for our audience for tuning in on today's debate. Join us for our next debate next week, where our topic of debate is the COVID-19 response. Was it necessary protection or government overreach? Join us for two debaters with opposing views, Shannon Nicole and Michael Allen. If you want to keep conversations like this going, check out our newsletter, The Flip Side with Lisa Tracy, where we bring you two perspectives to both sides of the story. Check us out at www.theflipsidewithlisatracy.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and The Two-Sided Truth. Thank you all so much again, and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.